Welcome to the Deep Dive. We're diving into something you've been wanting to explore, using data to make better decisions, especially for your business.
Yeah, it's a fascinating topic.
Absolutely. We've got a great mix of stuff to work with today. A real-world story about a cafe owner, tips from Harvard Business School Online, and insights from AD, a company specializing in data-driven solutions.
It's a really cool mix, and it shows how data can be used in so many ways.
Exactly. So one of the sources we're looking at today tells the story of Alex, who owns a small cafe.
Okay.
And he's got a big decision to make. Should he expand his business or not?
Classic dilemma. I bet he's getting advice from everyone.
Oh, yeah. Everyone's got an opinion, which just makes it harder. But that's where data comes in. Instead of just going with his gut or listening to all that conflicting advice, Alex starts tracking stuff. Foot traffic at different times, employee costs, things like that.
So he's trying to gather evidence to make a more informed decision.
Exactly. He wants to understand his business better.
I like it.
And by analyzing the data, he starts to see these patterns, like weekday mornings were way busier than he thought, which might mean there's an opportunity, right? Maybe expand the breakfast menu or do a special promotion.
That's a perfect example of how data can reveal these hidden opportunities, things you might not even notice otherwise.
Totally. And that's what we're going to explore in this deep dive.
Yeah.
The power of data-driven decision-making. So first things first, what exactly is data-driven decision-making?
Well, Harvard Business School Online defines it as using data to inform your decisions and to validate any actions you're thinking about taking.
Okay, so it's not just about having data. It's about using it to actually guide your choices.
Exactly.
Gotcha.
And HBS Online gives some good examples of this, like collecting survey responses to figure out what your customers want, or doing user testing to see how people interact with a new website or a product.
Right.
Or even launching a product in a test market first to see if there's actually demand before going all in.
So basically, it's about testing your assumptions, gathering some evidence before you jump in with both feet.
Yeah, exactly. And data-driven decision-making isn't new. Businesses have been using data for ages, like think about merchants tracking their inventory. But the thing is, today we just have access to so much more data than ever before.
It's true. I mean, think about it. We have data on everything now. Customer behavior, website traffic, social media engagement. It's almost overwhelming.
Yeah, it can be. But that also means there's a huge opportunity to use this data to our advantage.
And we're seeing companies, big companies, actually do this really well. Like Google, for instance, they actually use data to improve the quality of their managers.
Oh, yeah. That was a fascinating case study from the HBS Online article.
It really was. Can you tell us a little more about how they did that?
Sure. So they basically analyzed performance reviews, employee feedback surveys, and a bunch of other data to see what made their most successful managers, so successful. And what they found was that things like clear communication, a supportive leadership style, focusing on employee development, these were all common traits among the top performers.
So they weren't just guessing about what makes a good manager.
Right. They used data to pinpoint those key qualities.
That's smart.
Yeah. And once they had these insights, they actually created these training programs for all their managers to help them develop these skills.
And it worked.
It did. They saw a significant increase in manager favorability scores based on how employees rated them.
That's amazing. It shows that data isn't just about making, better business decisions. It's also about improving company culture and employee satisfaction, too.
Absolutely. And it's not just Google either. Starbucks uses data to figure out where to open new stores.
Really?
Yep. They look at things like demographics, foot traffic patterns, where their competitors are, all to find those areas where they're most likely to succeed.
Makes sense. They're minimizing risk by using data to guide their expansion.
Exactly. And then you've got Amazon, their recommendation engine, the one that suggests products you might like based on your past purchases.
Yeah.
That's all powered by data analysis and machine learning. They're essentially teaching computers to learn from data and make predictions about what you'll want to buy.
So, the more data it gathers, the better it gets at predicting what you'll want next.
Right, and it works amazingly well. Amazon says 35% of their consumer purchases come from these recommendations.
Wow.
That's billions of dollars in sales driven by those data-driven algorithms.
That's incredible. It really highlights the power of data, especially to influence consumer behavior.
Absolutely. And the big takeaway here is that data-driven decision-making isn't just about crunching numbers. It's about gaining a deeper understanding of your customers, your market, and your business overall.
Okay, so we've seen how big companies are using data, but what about everyone else? What are the benefits for our listeners? If they start being more data-driven?
Yeah, great question. One of the biggest benefits, and HBS Online talks about this too, is that you can be way more confident in your decisions.
Makes sense. Data takes out the guesswork, right?
Totally. Instead of relying on your gut feeling or like anecdotal evidence, you're using actual facts to back up your choices.
No more second-guessing yourself. I like that.
Right. And that confidence makes it easier to commit to a strategy because you know it's based on something solid.
So it's not just about making the right choice. It's about being able to, really execute it effectively.
Exactly. And another benefit is it can make you more proactive. By looking at data, you might be able to see opportunities or even threats before they become big problems.
So instead of constantly reacting to problems, you can actually get ahead of them.
Exactly. Like, imagine you spot a new trend early on. You could capitalize on it before your competitors even realize what's happening.
Okay, yeah, that would be huge.
Right. Or let's say you run an e-commerce store and you see website traffic dropping from a certain area. If you look at the data, you might find out there's a new competitor there.
Or maybe there's a technical issue preventing people from getting to the site.
Exactly. You can fix it before it really hurts your sales. Data is like an early warning system.
I like that analogy.
And HBS Online actually mentions a survey of Fortune 1000 execs, and it showed that using data to cut costs was one of the most successful data initiatives they had.
I can see that. You can identify where you might be wasting money or how to do things more efficiently.
Right. And ADA, the company we talked about earlier, they really emphasize this too, the power of data to make things run smoother and, yeah, save money. So it's not just about those big strategic decisions. It's about improving the everyday operations of your business.
All right, that all sounds great, but let's get down to brass tacks here.
Yeah.
How can our listeners become more data-driven? Where do they even begin?
Well, HBS Online and ADA have some really good tips. First, start paying attention to patterns everywhere, even in your daily life. Train your brain to think analytically.
So, if you notice your grocery bill is higher some months, that's data too.
Exactly. It's about building that data muscle, looking for trends and patterns in everything you do.
Gotcha.
And then anytime you're making a decision, big or small, really think about what data you could use to help you. Don't just rely on your gut.
It's like another tool in your decision-making toolbox.
Exactly. And don't forget about visuals. Use charts and graphs to make it easier to see trends and draw conclusions.
I'm a visual learner, so I totally get that.
It can make complex data so much easier to understand.
Right.
And then if you really want to go all in on data, think about taking some courses or maybe even a degree program in data science or analytics.
Great advice. And ADA also says that building a data-driven culture within your company is really important too.
Yeah, it's not just about one person being data savvy. It's about everyone valuing and using data.
So everyone's making data-informed decisions at all levels.
Exactly. Now, since 80 works on data-driven solutions, they've got some really cool real-world examples. Like, they worked with a cosmetics brand in Thailand during the pandemic.
Oh, wow. Yeah, that must have been a tough time for a lot of businesses, especially ones that rely on people, actually going out and shopping.
Definitely.
But with ADA's help, this brand used data to identify their top 3 customer personas. And then they created these really targeted messages for each group.
So instead of trying to appeal to everyone with the same message, they personalized it.
Exactly. And it worked really well. Their engagement went up by 156%. Can you believe that? And get this, their cost per click went down by 27%.
So they were reaching more people and spending less money.
Yeah. It shows how data can really help your bottom line, especially when things are tough.
Data can help you adapt to change and stay ahead of the game.
Totally. AD also shared an example of how they helped a commercial bank in Indonesia that was opening new branches.
Ah, location is everything.
Right. They didn't want to end up right next door to a big competitor or open in a spot where no one needed their services.
Makes sense.
So ADA used their location planner tool to help the bank see where the competition was and identify areas with good potential for growth. Things like population density and income levels.
Smart move. It's all about being strategic and knowing where to invest.
And this information actually helped them create a 5-year plan for transforming their branches. Pretty impressive.
Talk about long-term thinking.
ADA's main point is that you can use data for almost everything in business. Marketing, locations, pricing, you name it. It's about finding the right data to answer your specific questions.
And that's what makes it so powerful, being able to tailor your approach to your own needs and goals.
Exactly. So as we wrap up this deep dive into data-driven decision-making, What's the key takeaway for our listeners?
Well, I think it's this. Data-driven decision-making isn't just for big companies with tons of resources. It's a way of thinking that anyone can use to make better choices in business and in life.
I love that. It's about giving everyone the power to use data, regardless of their background.
Exactly. And while it might seem a little daunting at first, it's really not that complicated. Just start small, be curious, and you'll be surprised by what you discover.
Great advice. So as you go about your day, think about a decision you need to make. What kind of data could help you make the best choice possible?
It's a great question to ask yourself.
And be sure to check out the links in our episode notes to learn more from HBS Online and ADA. A huge thank you to everyone for joining us on this deep dive into data-driven decision-making.
It was a pleasure being here. See you next time.
And hey, if you enjoyed this deep dive into data and decisions, don't forget to hit that subscribe button so you don't miss any future episodes.
We appreciate each and every one of you who tunes in and engages with us.
Really, your support means so much, especially as we're still growing.
It helps us keep bringing you these deep dives and exploring all sorts of fascinating topics, so thank you.
So until next time, stay curious, and remember, data can be your friend.